Okay, so I'll turn my lights off real quick. So what is Infraworks? Infraworks is it's actually a civil engineering tool. It was designed to be used in conjunction with Autodesk, AutoCAD, Civil 3D. I learned this tool about 2 or 3 years ago. Our company gave us a training session on this tool, and it really changed, I think, the way we do things, at least within our company. The reason being is, to this point, GIS generally lives within GIS, and you export it usually as an Illustrator map, or you might export it as CAD layers that you're going to bring into AutoCAD or Rhino, and then it just exists within those programs. There's never been really a really strong way to bring GIS information into a 3D environment. Even the programs that Esri puts out for 3D GIS actually are pretty bad, from my experience. And I know this because I went to Esri conferences and I've seen their GIS 3D software, and it's all actually pretty, in my opinion, kind of outdated. So there has never been a strong 3D GIS platform until I found in this program, which is this program Infraworks. The reason why it's really good is because you're able to just simply straight up directly bring in your GIS layers. So what you see right here is a digital elevation base and an aerial draped on top of that. And this is pure GIS information, but it's automatically brought in as a 3D model. And then you can visualize this using accurate sun and location information. The beauty of this tool is that it is geolocated. If I zoom out of this model, you see that it's actually sitting on a planet. And if I change, for instance, the sun and sun and sky settings, like for instance, if I change the time of day, you see it actually gives an accurate representation of the lighting conditions during that time. So I can change the season as well, and the time as well. And it's all geolocated correctly on the planet. So whenever I bring my GIS information into this program, I know that I'm getting a very accurate representation of that site in the location that's meant to be in. So that is one reason why I really love this tool. The second reason I really love this tool is because it's actually a good plate, a dish upon which you can integrate all your other 3D model information as well. So SketchUp, Revit, Rhino, all the models that you use in all your other tools integrates with this program actually very, very well. So some of these buildings you see here, these were modeled in Rhino, and we simply just brought these into this program. Some of these models were modeled in Infraworks. So for instance, these buildings right here, these are basically just shape files with a building height data set or building height attribute associated with it, and then Infraworks just automatically extrudes it to the correct height. This image you see in the base right here, this rendering, is basically just a JPEG that I was able to drag in to Infraworks and then just align it to the site. And so it was very easy to drape site images onto this area. Like for instance, this is the new arch grounds area that I was able to drape on top. And then this model of the arch was just something I found on SketchUp Warehouse. And I just dropped it in there like that. And then I guess the one other thing you can do with this tool is that it's able to represent topography in the most accurate way possible. So I'll explain that in a second, but basically your digital elevation models that you get from USGS and all those other tools, that is more or less, outside of getting a survey from a surveyor, the most accurate topographical data you can get. And when you turn that information into contours, what you're essentially doing is you're simplifying that data set to be manageable, right? You can't bring pure elevation data into Rhino and then expect to use it. It would crash your computer. Now, Infraworks does not simplify that data. Infraworks brings in that DEM information and then just generates it to to the pixel. So if I zoom into this map here, you're going to see there's a bunch of these pixels, or rather these cells here, these little cells. Each cell in the Infraworks mesh is linked to a cell in the DEM, for instance. So the higher the resolution your DEM, the higher the resolution of your final model. This does not simplify the actual geometry. And so I like this because it gives me the best possible representation of the topography on the site. And so I always get the best and most accurate topo model out there. And because it's running off my graphics card, it's smooth, it's fast. It's not gonna like slow down my computer. The other good thing about Infraworks is that it's a powerful visualization tool in the sense that you can bring in assets such as trees, cars, people. Infraworks has a very robust library of items that you can just simply drag in. So for instance, this arch grounds area here, right now I just have trees just kind of in the plan drawing here, but what you can do is you can use some of these tree tools that you see on the side here, say for instance this stand of trees. By stand basically meaning like a grouping of trees, and you can pick amongst all these built-in trees that are pre-packaged in the software. And you can also import your own custom tree models if you have any. But you can pick one of these options and you can simply draw a boundary around the area that you want trees for. Then double click and let it do its thing, and then it automatically generates trees. Right now it's in the low visual quality mode, so let me turn on the realistic tree. There's a realistic tree button right here. So we turn that on, it turns into real trees, and then you can up the density by dragging the slider to the right, and they can up the massing of the trees by dragging the height up like that. So you can create some realistic looking tree massings on sites. So I like this tool because it's great for these kind of aerial renderings as well. So you need to render out a large area. You don't want to model trees, just draw. What I do is I usually draw like one of these large tree boundaries, and I create massing of trees like that. And as you can see, it actually has a high level of detail associated with it, and it also has a randomization feature, so it doesn't look like you just copy and pasted the same tree over and over and over again. So that's really cool. So it's not just trees. I'll delete these trees a second. It's also things like in the furniture area, there's people. So there's a whole library of scale figures as well. So you can bring in, say, the standing woman waiting, and you can drop her into, say, let's go over to our plaza and drop her in. You can drop in a woman kind of standing around, like so. And you can see again, it's actually a pretty, yeah, like, oh man, it's kind of creepy. Yeah. Rawr. This is like that movie, The Thing, which is one of my favorite movies. So automatically has scale figures in here, and all the, things like cars as well. So you can throw in animated wind turbines. So let's say you're trendy and you decide to put a wind turbine on the arch grounds. You can do that, and it spins like so. So maybe your project for studio has a wind turbine, and you decide to be energy conscious, and so you throw in a bunch of wind turbines on the site. So Infraworks supports animated models. And these are all built into the library of stuff that you have already built in. So there's a lot of fun things you can do with it.
So this is already all in?
Yeah, you just download the program, you install it. The student version is the full version of the program. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really nice. And then you also have water. So over here you have water areas. So you can click on water, and you can pick on, there's two water options. They're both the same basically. I just pick default water. And you can draw the pond. So let's quickly draw this pond. As you can see, it actually nicely curves the resulting boundary. So it's not just a angular pond, but it's actually the nice rounded pond. And then double click to close it. So right now I have high visual quality turned on. If I turn it off, this is high visual quality, this little button right here, and this little thing here. And I'll go over the user interface in more detail through today's class. But if we turn this on, you can see it actually turns on the water animation. Then you can see the color of it. You can't change the color of it, but what you can do is you can give it a color filter. So what I do is using the Model Explorer thing here, you can add in the water areas here, a color overlay on top of that. So it's not really changing the colors, it's kind of like graphically representing it in a new way, but you can set the highlighting color to be any color you want, say green or something, in terms of green. So for our project, we set it to be this kind of a grayish thing, and that was a bit more accurate than the super blue that you get without that highlight. So yeah, you can change the color. So this is fun, right? So whenever we have large-scale aerial renderings of sites and we need to have some nice looking water, we use the water feature just to get that. And it's nice, again, because it actually reflects, the context. So you can see some of the buildings within the water. It's pretty nice. Delete that. And then the last thing that I'll show you guys, there's a bunch of tools in here that you can use, but the last thing, and this is the reason actually why Infraworks exists, is the roads option here. So with Infraworks, there is a pretty robust road drawing tool set within it. So let's just go to some area where there's not a lot of stuff, so I can just show it. For instance, there's a whole library of roads in here that you can pick from. So let's say you pick, let's find a good one. Boulevard with Palms. Because I think St. Louis is getting kind of boring. I think we need to insert some palm trees in the city. And so you can draw a road, double click to close, and then as it generates, you see it generates a road on the site. And then the cool thing is, if you draw an intersecting road, it automatically figures out the intersection. So it automatically generates the intersection as well. With palm trees, yeah. So, so if you're thinking about the future of St. Louis, just think about palm trees, because we need to really liven up the city. So, screw your climate zones, whatever. Just put palm trees, or find some way to genetically engineer palm trees to grow within the Midwest. Why not?
What happens if you put cars on there?
There are no way currently. And that's actually one thing about Infraworks that I actually am a little disappointed by. There are no animating cars. So for now, all you can do is just pick a car. Again, there's a huge library of stuff. Let's find a car. Oh, here we go. Here's a car library. So you can pick one, say like one of these, a fire truck, and drop it on the road. So there's your fire truck. Now, here's the thing. Looking at this up close, it actually isn't that nice, right? It's actually kind of a cheap looking model, right? And so what I recommend when people use Infraworks is to never use this tool at face value, is to export this and then to do some Photoshop work on top of that to make it look nicer, right? Because this by itself looks a bit too cheap. The nice thing about Infraworks is that it does give you accurate shadows. And so the most valuable rendering thing that comes out of this tool is actually the accurate lighting that you get from this. And so I like this tool for that reason, almost that reason alone. I'm able to represent my projects with the right lighting conditions at any time of the year. And this is extremely, extremely valuable as a designer to know what does it look like at 8 a.m., what does it look like at noon, what does it look like in the afternoon. et cetera, et cetera. So just delete that. So what I'm going to show you now is the other cool thing about Infraworks is the building facade and roof functionality. So what you can do is you can bring in shapefile data sets into Infraworks. So this is just a building footprint, like I said, with a building height attribute, and it just comes in the correct location. I can use like introduce the whole city. But you can actually add a roof pitch, you can actually add facade to that as well. And it will have detail. So for instance, I can click on a building and it has things associated with it. There's a style. So if I click on style, there's a bunch of building facades that you can throw onto it. And the facades come in different material categories. So brick, concrete, marble, metal and glass. So let's just pick a random one, Elvis, for instance. I don't know why it's called Elvis, but whatever. So you see what it does is it actually throws on a building facade onto it. You can play around with different styles and see what you get. And then what you can do is you can actually add a roof pitch to it as well. So a roof pitch is basically a slope. So right now you can say like a slope of 25 degrees and adds a roof pitch to that. And you can automate this for large groupings of buildings. So it's not just one building, but you can do it for almost every building on the site as well. So if, for instance, you have a residential area with a bunch of pitched roofs and you just want to quickly throw pitched roofs on them, this tool will allow you to do that really, really quickly and really, really efficiently. So this is to say this tool is not for designing buildings. This tool is for designing backgrounds for your buildings, right? Obviously, you don't want to design buildings that look like this because this is terrible. But it's better, it may be better in certain instances than having a plain facade. Now, in most cases, I would actually just recommend having a plain facade because this is nice, clean representation of a massing. It doesn't distract you from the actual project. But maybe a roof pitch is okay, right? Okay, so one kind of stupid thing, but it's kind of fun, is you can actually animate the sky. So if I turn on animation, you can see the sky is moving. You can actually make the sky like a torrential sky, like a hurricane sky. Just have it like be like blasting winds. Whoosh. Yeah, that was pretty dumb. Okay. The other thing you can do is you can change the camera field of view, which is this little slider right here. So right now it's at 70, but you can change to something like really tight, like 15. It almost feels like an axon. Or you can make something really wide, like 120, and it just feels like you're in a helicopter flying around the city. But these are just a few visualization tricks and things that you can play with this tool. And with that, I think I've basically give you a brief overview of most of the important things of this tool. So I'm going to end this now and then teach you how to build a model.